Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at lesson 9.2. We are on the second part of inequalities using multiplication and division. Make sure you're taking notes and writing down the key concept and keeping a video log. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to need to pay some close attention to the next couple things we're doing here. And I'm going to pull out a highlighter. I think that will make it a little easier to see. Okay, so the multiplication property of inequality. There are times where you're going to be multiplying by a negative number, and there is an important way to handle this. If you multiply each side by an inequality by the same negative number, you must reverse the direction of the inequality sign to keep the relationship between the two sides from changing. So if A is less than B, then A times C is going to be greater than B times C for all numbers A, B, and C where C is greater than 0. So what they're doing is if we have negative 1/2 is less than 3, then negative 1/2 multiplied by negative 2, we need to reverse this sign and make it greater than 3 times negative 2. So let's see. If I started off with negative 1/2, so that's right here, and I multiply it by 2, well, negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 1/2 is 1. So I'm going to move to this point. So this is where I've moved to. Now if I have negative 1/2, negative 3 times 2, well, negative times a positive is going to give me a negative, and 3 times 2 is 6. So this is where this number becomes. So if we look, we see that we have 1 and we have a negative 6. So if we don't change the sign, we would be saying 1 is less than negative 6. But we know 1 is not less than negative 6. Sorry, my brain had a little hiccup. So what we have to do to keep this statement true is we have to flip the sign. We reverse the sign. So 1 is greater than negative 6. I know this is a little hard. It's one of these special rules that we have to memorize for multiplication and division, that if you multiply or divide by a negative number in an inequality, that the inequality symbol needs flipped. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, the division property of an inequality, again, if you are dividing by a negative, you have to reverse the inequality sign. So when we look, we have negative 8 is less than negative 6. We would agree to that. So what happens if we take negative 8 and we divide by negative 2? Well, we need to reverse because we're dividing by a negative. So we flip this sign around to become greater than, so that we have negative 6 divided by negative 2. If I have negative 8 divided by negative 2, negative divided by a negative is positive. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So this is going to become my new half of this answer. Well, then if I have negative 6 divided by negative 2, again, that's a positive, and 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. So if I kept the arrow, I would be saying 4 is less than 3. But that's just absolute nonsense. 4 is not less than 3. So to keep the statement true, I have to follow the rules for inequality and flip my sign, where then I would write 4 is greater than 3. So ladies and gentlemen, we need to practice a little bit that if we're multiplying or dividing by the negative, that what we do with the sign. So go ahead and take a moment and fill in these, write this out and fill in the blanks, and then check. Okay, so the first step I did is we needed to isolate the k. So if this is dividing by negative 4, I need to multiply by negative 4 on both sides. And so I just go ahead and showed that I would be multiplying by a negative 4. Still, that would still be the less than sign. And I need to do the next step. So once I multiply negative 4 to both sides, I just get a k. And then 21 times negative 4 is going to be a negative. Positive times a negative gives me a negative. 21 times 4 is 84. But I had to reverse my symbol. My less than sign became a greater than sign. Did you remember to do that step? Hopefully you did. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to pause the video for a second while you try to decide which bag each of these inequalities belongs to. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as you're looking, you're going to notice I didn't answer the first bag, and we'll come back to that one in a second. We have a is less than 9, and I know that if I take 3a and I have 3a is less than 27, I can divide this 3 to both sides, and I'll get a is less than 9, and since it's a positive, I wouldn't be changing the sign. So I know that one is good. Then I come to a is greater than 9, and I have again a is divided by 3 is greater than 9. So if I multiply both sides by a positive 3, my sign is going to stay the same. It's going to be a greater than, but it's going to become a is greater than 9. If I come to my last bag, I have negative 3a is greater than 27. Well, I know I'm going to be dividing by a negative 3. And so I know that sign needs to be changed from greater than to less than. So negative 3a divided by negative 3 is a, and then I change my sign. And 27 divided by negative 3, well, a negative and a positive gives me a negative. 27 divided by 3 gives me 9. If I come back over to this one, a is greater than a negative 9. So I know I need to have some kind of negative to get a 9. So I start looking at what I got left, and I have 3a is less than negative 27, but this is a positive 3. So if I go to divide both of these, I'm going to get the right answer, except the sign's going to be wrong. And because it's a positive 3, I won't be flipping the sign. So that one's not going to work. Then I come over here, I have a divided by a negative 3, so that's going to cause the sign to change the correct direction. However, when I'm going to multiply negative 3 times negative 3, that's going to give me a positive. So there is an error in our actual problem here. So I will be writing digits, but this one, we would need it to say something to the effect of negative 3a. Oh, here, let me write this so you're not just having to listen to me. You'd have to say like negative 3a is less than 27. So that when I multiplied or divided by the negative 3, so be dividing by negative 3, I would get a positive 1a. The sign would have to change, and this would become not a negative 9 because I have a positive and a negative. So then that would work. So this one needs to be negative 3a is less than 27. So when we come and we look to say, well, isn't that what down here says? But let's look. That actually says greater than. So when that sign changes, it's going to be less than. Whoops, that was an oops. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this is our practice. Please take the notes as you need to. And the magic word for this one is purple.